We are fighting against another one-size-fits-all proposal coming from Albany. It's that time of year again, and we're back. This time, the so-called faith-based housing initiatives, so that anywhere throughout our community, including next to a school, next to our parks, next to our single-family zones, any religious institution could build buildings 5 stories tall. This is not a political issue. This is a local control issue. This is another one-size-fits-all approach that's going to hurt our taxpayers.
Look, I know today's Solar Eclipse Day, but it really feels more like Groundhog's Day. We've been down this road before with Albany, when our Albany legislators are trying to dictate to localities. Localities are building across the state, not just on Long Island. We've approved hundreds of units in the last year, but it's by local control and being respectful of working with the local residents. When they embrace a concept, we can build it. We've had great success in West Hempstead, over 400 units of housing approved last year. Baldwin, 250 units plus another 92 approved in the last year. This was done with local control, but also working with the localities. We've been right now assured that this proposal will not be in the budget. There was an initial move to have this shoved in the budget, really to avoid the opportunity for residents to voice their concerns. I received a call over the weekend, as well as the supervisors, that the governor's office has indicated to us that it will not be in the budget. I take it at face value. That means if they don't get it in the budget, there will be legislation coming forth. And all of us need to stand with our senators, our assembly people, and do what we did last year. Stand up as a suburban group, not only Nassau, Suffolk, but in Westchester, in Buffalo, in Erie, and across the state, and make our voices heard that the right development should be left in the hands of localities instead of the back doors and offices of Albany legislators who don't represent the interests of these residents, their school districts, their environmental concerns, or local zoning.
Thank you to everybody who is here today. Why is there such a plethora of elected officials coming forward to fight against this very dangerous housing legislation? Because it's wrong for Long Island. It's disastrous. And so many people understand that. But we're not against development, as Supervisor Clavin mentioned. We're for the compromise. We're for incentive-based solutions to development that have proven successful. In fact, incentives are the reason we're revitalizing our downtown Hicksville and growing the community with new housing opportunities. Incentives have proven successful in Mineola, Westbury, Patchogue, in so many places. Sadly, we've learned that they're repackaging these failed policies again and again, and trying to hide them in the state budget is outrageous and a major insult to the residents of New York State.
So because you are a religious institution or a not-for-profit, somehow you get to wave your hand at your local community and say, we're going to prioritize construction, even if it's building a 5-story building next door to a single-family home with no parking, no off-street parking whatsoever. You have state legislators, you have supervisors, town members, county members, school board members, mayors, and village officials here standing united on a single issue. We will protect our homes, we will protect our families, we will protect our communities.
This legislation promotes a fiction that it's about religious institutions becoming landlords, developing properties that have churches, mosques, with apartment buildings up to 60 feet high. It's not. Americans made a democratic decision years ago, over 50 years ago, in a Supreme Court decision, that religious institutions are good for our communities and should be tax-free. But this proposal is not good for our communities. This legislation would allow any one of us to join with a developer, create a nonprofit corporation, and build houses that don't comply with zoning or environmental laws that are a blight on our community.
The Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act is a mistake. It's going to increase student populations without increasing the associated school district's tax base. It just doesn't make sense. This is being done and considered at a time when there is a consideration of reformulating foundation aid, either this year or next. When you put all that together, and that's going to result in a reduction in many cases in the amount of aid school districts receive. So when you put all that together, you have an increase in student populations and in many cases a decrease in the amount of aid with no increase to the tax base.
As we mentioned last year during the housing compact debate, when you're increasing the population here on Long Island, you're increasing the draw on our sole source aquifer, which is already on the verge of overpumping. If we add hundreds of thousands of residents, which when you talk about 1,100 properties here in Nassau County alone, that could be built upon at a minimum density of housing of 50 units per acre, you are talking about hundreds of thousands of residents. How are we going to do that? Where do you get more water? You can't. And so again, this is being driven not by need. This is being driven, unfortunately, by politics and by this relentless assault on Long Island to try and turn Long Island into the sixth borough of New York City.
It's time that the governor and the majorities in Albany decided to turn their sights on New York City, on rent-stabilized housing, and make those units available for people who need them, not for rich people who are taking advantage of a system and keeping that unit from being held by someone who's earning less than area median income. That would be a great step.